Hi everyone, I sure hope you're doing okay today. I want to share with you a word to consider, please, and it is untapped. Did you think about that word, untapped? When I looked it up, I know I had something in my mind, of course, when I looked it up, it took me, the very first thing it took me to was a new app that had to do with discovering different types of beer. And it's called Drink Socially, Untapped. And I thought, no, that's not what I'm talking about here today. But it did cause me to remember when I was a child growing up, in my home, my dad drank beer, and we always had a keg in the back refrigerator. And the greatest joy in my life when I was a kid playing in the pool was the empty keg that floated in the pool. Now, that's the only beer story I have, and keg, but that's not what I'm talking about here today. Untapped, that's not it. Untapped in the dictionary means not drawn upon or utilized as yet. Not yet used. That's untapped. In conjunction with the word untapped is the word heir. H-E-I-R. You might sense where I'm going with this. An heir. An heir is a person fully entitled to the prosperity, the property, or the rank of another. It's a person inheriting and continuing the legacy of a predecessor. An heir. That, of course, made me think about Harry and Meghan, the royals. The royals who Harry is an heir to the throne of England. He's an heir. And yet he's chosen to leave that position, that entitlement. He's chosen to turn his back on it. And in 2019, you remember, he and his wife, Meghan, decided they were not going to be royals anymore. They didn't want the duties or the responsibilities of being royals. May I suggest to you, honestly, I really believe that that is a prophetic picture of what's happening in the church today. I really do. I believe, well, let me explain. You see, when we're born again and when we've been baptized, we die in the waters and we come up out of the water. Our old nature and all that it was is left in the water, and we come up out of the water totally new, just as Jesus came out of the tomb totally new. Now, Galatians, Romans, 2 Corinthians, and Colossians all tell us this. They tell us that our old sin nature was buried in baptism, nailed to the cross. And when we come out of the water, everything is new. We are totally new, not partially new. Matter of fact, Galatians 4:28 says this: we are now true children who inherit the kingdom promises. My goodness. True children who inherit the kingdom promises. Galatians 4:5 says we can access everything our Father has. We are heirs of God through Jesus. Oh man. James tells us that if our faith remains strong in life's difficulties, we will continue to experience the untold blessings of God. And then he goes on to say in 1:17, he says, every gift he gives, God gives, is perfect, and it's streaming down upon us. Let's stop here for a second, folks. Let's stop and think about this. If you and I have been born again and we've been baptized, then we have access to everything our Father has. All of his gifts, all of his promises are ours. Consider that. I've been considering that the last couple of weeks, and I've realized, honestly, I have yet to tap into all that the Father has for me. His promises are untapped in my life. His word is untapped in my life. His gifts are untapped in my life. I have yet to fully tap into the resurrected power of Christ in me. And yet, consider one more picture, if you would. And consider James. He's called Jacob. James. Here was James, a brother of Jesus, the New Testament James. Perhaps this James was raised in the same house as Jesus. He was raised with Jesus. He grew up with Jesus. He knew about Jesus' claims. He knew about Jesus' words. He knew about Jesus' promises. And yet, those were left untapped in James' life until after Jesus' resurrection. James did not tap into Jesus' new life until Jesus was gone. But then he did. He did. When Jesus resurrected and went up to heaven, he went, holy smokes, everything my brother said was true. Everything I saw in front of me was true. And he became a leader in the church. And we know that he became martyred even. He was a martyr. But James grew up with Jesus, and yet Jesus' power was untapped in his life for a season. For a season, my friend, for a season. Jesus has made our entire life new. Why do we live according to the old ways? Why do we do it? Why do we keep going back to the old ways? You see, the kingdom of God is at hand. I've said that repeatedly. It is past time for us believers to begin to function as his governing body on earth, his ecclesia on earth. It's time. It's time for the kingdom of God. It's time. So we must tap into his presence. For it's in his presence that we find the strategies, the words, the wisdom, everything that we need to walk in the full power, to demonstrate his power, to accomplish his will, to speak healing, prophecy, miracles, signs, wonders. Everything we need is in his presence. It's time to tap in. But more than that, my friend, it's time to exercise faith. It's time to move out in courage. It's time to be bold. It's time to get out and speak his word and declare his word and live his word and share his word. All of his promises are yet to be fulfilled in us. May we demonstrate the full power that resides in the Father, because we've tapped into it. In these days of harvest, in these days of revival, your words have to be linked up to Jesus, and he will honor them. He will bring power and blessing. People will be saved, delivered, healed, brought into the kingdom by our words, by the acts of the Spirit through us as we move boldly in faith. It's time to tap in, my friend. It's time to tap in to every promise and everything that the Father has for us, that his kingdom will be seen on earth as it is in heaven. Let's tap in. Let's have courage. Go with God.